Moving a massive, complex organization to the cloud, it is an absolutely colossal undertaking. Look, if an enterprise just starts unplugging on-premises servers and uploading unstructured data, they aren't innovating. No, they're descending into absolute chaos, literally carrying years of technical debt straight into a brand new environment. So today on The Explainer, we're unpacking the Microsoft Cloud Adoption Framework. This is a comprehensive guide designed to deeply align your business strategy, your people, and your technology architecture, so these large-scale migrations happen without, losing control. We're going to break down the exact roadmap required to achieve fast, measurable business results while simultaneously maintaining ironclad governance across your entire infrastructure.
Okay, let's dive into a classic metaphor here. Consider a traditional IT intersection governed by a stoplight. It relies on stopping traffic entirely to maintain control. Every new initiative, every server request, it all has to wait for manual approvals, architecture review boards, and scheduled deployment windows. It's safe, sure, but it's incredibly slow and creates massive bottlenecks. Now contrast that with a modern cloud architecture. It functions way more like a roundabout. Traffic just flows continuously. Cars are entering and exiting autonomously, navigating independently, but, and this is key, within a shared, highly structured system. The ultimate goal of adopting the cloud is achieving exactly this, a perfect balance between governance and stability on one hand, and velocity and results on the other. It's about keeping the business moving safely without constantly slamming on the brakes.
But to make that roundabout work, there has to be a fundamental paradigm shift in the organizational mindset. The traditional IT department? It was built to enforce and control. It was designed as this central bottleneck where every single request had to be explicitly approved by a gatekeeper. The cloud demands a dramatic shift toward enabling and supporting. It requires providing operational freedom and delegating responsibility out to the individual business units. So instead of manual ticket approvals, you build automated guardrails. You use mechanisms like Azure Policy to automatically prevent non-compliant resources from ever being created in the first place. You are no longer building stoplights, right? You're engineering a highly efficient automated roundabout.
So to get us there, here is our roadmap for today. We'll cover 1. The paradigm shift, 2. Strategy and planning, 3. Getting the environment ready, 4. Adopting the cloud, and finally, 5. The future IT department.
Let's start right in with part 1, the paradigm shift, moving from enforcing to enabling.
Which leads us perfectly into part 2, strategy and planning, where we really start charting the course.
Transitioning into this phase requires recognizing a pretty core truth. Moving to the cloud isn't just about servers. It's a fundamental, ground-up shift in company culture. Before a single piece of data is moved, an organization absolutely must identify its specific motivations. Ask yourself, what is driving this? An enterprise might have urgent capacity needs, or maybe a massive data center contract is about to expire, forcing a hard exit deadline. For other organizations, the move honestly has nothing to do with infrastructure savings. It's entirely about application innovation, scaling globally, or responding to evolving security threats. Documenting these specific, business-driven motivators is critical because it tells your technical engineering teams exactly what benefits the business is actually pursuing. Success can't be measured, and architecture definitely can't be designed properly if the end goal is ambiguous.
Once that overarching strategy is explicitly defined, those aspirational goals have to be converted into concrete technical and organizational actions through the plan phase. The first step is evaluating your digital estate. This means deploying discovery tools to take a comprehensive inventory of all existing assets, their dependencies, and analyzing which workloads actually make financial sense to move. But listen, the technical assessment is really only half the battle. Initial organizational alignment and building a skills readiness plan are front and center. How do you skill up an entire organization for the cloud? Well, it involves establishing dedicated learning paths, setting certification goals, and actively breaking down those legacy operational silos. Aligning the people and actively training them is just as crucial as sizing your virtual machines. Seriously, if the engineering and operations teams don't know how to safely drive in a cloud roundabout, the infrastructure will fail, no matter how perfectly the code is written.
Okay, moving on to part 3, getting the environment ready, which is all about pouring the foundation.
When pouring the concrete for a new cloud environment, your goal is to establish a foundation, often called a landing zone, that handles about 80 to 90% of the organization's adoption needs right out of the gate. A massive mistake organizations make here is trying to account for every single edge case, every legacy application, or weird outlier requirement during that initial build. And that leads directly to analysis paralysis. Actually, scratch that. It's worse. It stops the project dead in its tracks. Instead, the focus must be on building a highly secure, scalable target environment capable of hosting the vast majority of your standard workloads. You establish this baseline first, allowing the bulk of the migration to proceed, and then you iteratively expand it later as more complex, specialized needs pop up.
Now, to build that functional baseline, the framework mandates addressing 8 critical design areas. Think of these as the concrete lanes, the signs, and the physical laws of our roundabout. It helps to think of them in logical groupings. You've got organization and enterprise enrollment, which set up the fundamental billing, legal structure, and management groups. Then, network topology and identity and access management define your entire perimeter, ensuring strict role-based access control and zero-trust principles are baked in from day one. Next, security and governance automatically enforce your corporate compliance. And finally, management and monitoring, business continuity, and platform automation form the day-to-day operational engine. Addressing these 8 areas completely ensures that when an engineering team spins up a new resource, it inherently complies with global corporate policy without needing a manual security review every single time.
And that brings us to part 4, adopting the cloud, and what we call the migration loop.
When workloads are finally ready to move, the execution relies heavily on the 5R strategy, which dictates exactly how an application is going to be handled. This is executed through 4 distinct steps. First up is assess, evaluating individual workloads to determine if they should be rehosted, refactored, re-architected, rebuilt, or replaced. Second is migrate. So a rehost is your standard lift and shift of virtual machines. Refactoring might involve slight modifications to use platform as a service, like say moving to Azure SQL. Re-architecting means breaking down a big monolith into microservices, while rebuilding means starting from scratch with cloud-native tech. And replacing, that simply means ditching the old system and moving to an off-the-shelf software-as-a-service product. Third is optimize, analyzing that migrated asset to right-size virtual machines and storage tiers, balancing top-tier performance against strict budgeting. And finally, secure and manage prepares that specific asset for its new daily operations lifecycle.
Now, it's so important to realize that this migration process is not a rigid, waterfall-style project where an enterprise attempts to just move thousands of servers over a single, highly stressful holiday weekend. No way. It is a continuous, right-sized loop of assessing, migrating, optimizing, and securing. It's tackled workload by workload, or sprint by sprint. Treating migration as an iterative flow reduces organizational risk immensely. It allows teams to learn and adjust their governance policies in real time and ensures the business experiences a steady, predictable stream of successful deployments rather than massive, disruptive change freezes.
Let's look at the final piece of the puzzle, Part 5, the future IT department, and how we evolve the organization itself.
As an organization fully adopts these continuous migration loops, the IT department itself has to undergo a structural transformation. It evolves into what is known as a cloud center of excellence. In this modern enterprise model, central IT finally sheds its legacy identity as the bottleneck that just dictates terms and provisions hardware. Instead, IT evolves into an internal service broker and a strategic partner. They architect the Azure Foundation, they maintain those landing zones we talked about, and they provide self-service catalogs with pre-approved, highly compliant infrastructure templates. By operating as a broker, they essentially empower individual business units to be entirely autonomous service consumers, provisioning their own resources instantly but safely within those predefined boundaries.
The core philosophy of this entire framework boils down to this. Organizations must shift the value of the IT department from build, own, and run to enabling others to operate autonomously. This concept fundamentally rewrites daily workflows. We're talking about decentralized innovation here. Application teams are no longer waiting weeks for database administrators to provision a piece of storage. They just deploy it themselves via code in a matter of minutes. This is the ultimate expression of delegated responsibility. You achieve incredible agility without ever sacrificing security. IT builds the absolute safest, most heavily monitored road possible, but the business units, they are the ones who actually drive the cars.
Which leaves us with a pretty crucial question to reflect on as we wrap up. When you evaluate your current architectural processes, your internal governance, and your daily operational bottlenecks, is your organization investing massive resources to build stoplights to manually control every single movement, or are you actively engineering automated roundabouts that empower your teams to move fast, safely, and continuously? The Microsoft Cloud Adoption Framework provides the exact blueprint for the roundabout. How you choose to build it from here? Well, that's entirely up to you. Thanks for joining me on this explainer.